Building Back Better: Strengths, Capabilities and Employability of Individuals with Autism, a session on 21st April 2022. The fifth session of our Building Back Better series was conducted in April 2022 in association with Rangam.
Autism Awareness Month, that is now known as Autism Acceptance Month, is designed to build better awareness about the realities of autism. And I think this entire shift of autism awareness to autism acceptance is a plea by the autism community to the media to be able to focus on the terminologies or the language that will be used during the month that sees various huge events across the world and the country. The shift in the use of terminology aims to foster acceptance, to ignite change in attitude, for improved support, communication, for improved education, employment, healthcare.
The Western perspective on employability and capabilities of individuals with autism was given by Mr. Lee Corliss, Senior Vice President, Sales and Partner Development, Rangam.
But there was a number of other companies that spotted the strengths that lies within the autistic community. We were one of the founder members at JP Morgan of the Autism at Work Roundtable. Other companies that founded that were Microsoft, EY, SAP, DXC, which used to be part of Hewlett-Packard, and Ford Motor Company. 6 huge companies recognizing the fact that there was huge strength in and talent within the autistic community. But equally, these companies recognized that it was untapped talent. As we all know, 22% of people who can gain employment on the spectrum have employment. Only 15% of those are in full-time employment. And when you're talking corporate and the way that corporates do interviews, etc., that is a huge hurdle to overcome to walk into the workplace. So this is why a lot of these companies, first of all, said, hey, we got to do something different. We want to tap into this talent. The big thing that comes out of that is actually what talent did they start to see? And there was a number of areas that really stood out. And there's areas that speak to corporate, that are, corporate when they're looking at that is, well, why is it commercially viable for me to do this? As well as why would I want to do it on the other side of that? Nobody wants to gain employment because it's a nice thing to do. We all want to gain meaningful employment because I have a skill that fits the job. And that's some of the big areas that Rangam works very hard with the companies on, is identifying roles that naturally plays into a skill set of an autistic individual. Again, these are areas that showing, one, that they really are an untapped talent, but 2, to the corporate world, that is huge. I'm going to have somebody who's going to get things right first time. I'm going to have somebody who's going to be able to produce more work than other colleagues are doing. The other area that you get is loyalty and integrity. So these individuals were found that once they started with companies, they then didn't move on. They wanted to really become good at their role, and brought great skills, and were able to then become good trainers of the role that they do, because they're training the process that's written down. But there's the other side to this. Companies can do their bit, but then it's down to the autistic community to also do their bit. How do you get recognized for your strengths? How do you, able to get into the companies if you're not applying for one? That's your first thing. You need to start applying. But 2, you need to, and this is the big old debate, to disclose or not to disclose. You really need to be disclosing, this is my opinion, you need to be disclosing your conditions, but you disclose it in the strengths-based way. You may have a lot of people that don't have the experience, but they have the strength that match the job. So that's what we're doing at Rangam, is we're really pointing out to companies, stop looking at what individuals are doing now, look at the key strengths of your job, marry that to the key strengths of the individual, wrap the support around not only the individual but the manager and the team, so that person integrates into the business really well, and you will have a successful candidate. We're there providing that support to both the company and to the individual. Therefore, you've gone from a diverse number to an included member of the team. That's the difference between diversity and inclusion.
The Indian perspective on employability and capabilities of individuals with autism was given by Ms. Akila Vaidyanathan, founder of Amaze Charitable Trust.
But on the other side, right, the scenario right now, is that I get sort of messages from people like Rangam or other people asking for profiles, asking for CVs, where they they are ready to hire people on the spectrum for their strengths, like Lee mentioned, but it is very difficult to find these profiles, isn't it? So while every year there are a few graduates who come out and they are quickly absorbed by these companies in the multinational cities, it has been a challenge to find these people, and the gap is what I want to talk about. There are 2 or 3 kinds of gaps. One is, of course, the whole skilling gap. Somebody might have completed their graduation or post-graduation, but still not have the soft skills to be employed in such corporate environments, and that I think is sort of getting filled up. There are now companies that do that sort of training. Enable India, Rangam, there are companies like this who are taking that up and taking that forward. The other gap is between the urban, the semi-urban and the rural. So when you look at the urban, there are candidates who come up from there. But when you look at the semi-urban and the rural part of India, there is a huge gap even in the early intervention, right from skilling from an early age, let alone for employability. So also language is a barrier in India. Somebody might be a degree holder, but may not be fluent in English or find it difficult to relocate to a city for a job. I did just a rough study I'm a parent myself, my son is 26. So of children who grew up with him, who are his age and employable. So it's only about 20 to 30% who complete their graduation, and another 30% who complete their 10th or 12th. The rest of them, almost 50%, have not completed any formal education. So what happens to them? And we are happy to report that, yes, even the ones with moderate to severe disability, given the space, given the training and the skilling, were able to pick up some area that they could actually excel in, and in that area they brought in all those skills Lee was talking about. What I'm trying to say is, in the semi-urban and the rural areas, that kind of awareness needs to come up, that kind of hope needs to come up, that even with the gaps, there are possibilities for engagement first and then for employment. The other areas being arts. There's a lot in the arts movement in India. There is, different schools. There is the Art Sanctuary. There's an outsider art movement. There is Brush with Art from Chennai. So they are bringing out a lot of artists, and there are a lot of portals now where these arts have been showcased, as well as being used and sold. So looking at this, not only at corporate, but looking at a diverse spectrum of possibilities for employment. We are a country where we are very otherwise academic focused, like getting a 10th pass or a 12th pass is the focus for the first 16 years of your life, irrespective of anything else. And if that doesn't happen, then you're considered that you're not good enough. Also, in India, there is a gap in the social skills training or the soft skills training space. That is a huge thing, because there is still, like I said, if you look at the urban, it's almost mimicking, say, the West. But when you look at semi-urban and rural, there is still a lot of stigma. When you look at the purely rural, actually, there is a lot more social inclusion, because they are still included in a joint family system, into the small businesses of farming that the families are doing. So there that is continuing, but that is slowly disappearing, right? And how do these people then fit into the a third world country's growing economic urban landscape. That is the challenge that we have to answer.
As a mother of a young autistic child who has been recently diagnosed, what all should I keep in mind? A question asked by our participant, Ms. Sneha, to Ms. Akila Vaidenathan.
As parents, we tend to, at that age, focus only on speech. And I think speech is important and needs to be worked on. But if we can also focus on communication, if you can understand the difference between the two. So even if the child is not speaking, to give him all the other ways, maybe through gestures, signs, there is ASC, technology-based solutions, some way to communicate, then it will reduce a lot of the anxiety that the child has and let him focus then on whatever else he wants to learn.
What kind of importance is given to one's academic qualifications or schooling during the recruitment process? Question asked by our participant, Mr. Anil Kumar, to Mr. Lee Collis.
Companies now are saying, we don't need that school piece of paper. What we're looking for is what skill is it for the job? And we're marrying what people are really naturally good at to the roles. So in answer to your question, no, we go right the way through from entry level roles right the way up through to the real technology roles, etc. Each company that comes to work with us may start off with trying to ask us to fill technology roles. Some of that is because that's where their gap is. Some of that is because they're testing us as a company to say, can we find the talent? Is the talent really out there within the autistic community? But once we prove that it is, they then start saying, hey, yeah, we've got all manner of roles.
What is holding companies back from hiring a large number of candidates? Question asked by our participant, Mr. Connor Reinhardt, to Mr. Lee Collis.
For them, it's confidence, it's understanding, do they have the infrastructure? It's that fear for them of, are we able to cope with this, this change? Again, is our HR set up to be able to support the individuals? It's the fear of doing the wrong thing by a lot of companies rather than the fear of doing something. And so while the number doesn't seem high, once you start working with a company, they quickly ramp up the numbers. They quickly then start putting more and more and more and more of the roles at you. At JP Morgan, we set up the program, and that was one of the leading autism programs around the globe. And within 5 years, we'd hired, just over 250 employees through that in one way, shape or form. Now, again, as you said, that's not a huge sum when the company employs just shy of 270,000 people globally. But, again, as you started to get traction within business areas, leaders, they got set up, they had their managers trained.
Self-advocate Bharat Subramaniam shared his experience with the audience.
IT company was for the beginning for autistic people, they initially said no, actually, but due to this Enable India training, which I took up at the year 2014, I think around September, so that I just came across the Enable India, and then they were the company was hiring people with autism at work program. Then so I took up so I was in training with Enable India for about 3 months, and I got, after that I got into the successfully finished the training and got placed in the company, and I'm in the same company for about 7 years now.
Building Back Better is Trinayani's annual campaign from December 2021 to December 2022 to create awareness about inclusion, accessibility and sustainability. To know more or to join our Building Back Better WhatsApp group, please mail us at ritika@trinayani.org or call us at 97693 57390. Do follow us on our social media handles for regular updates.